Thank you for joining us for our Q&A session for the Circle of Actions. My name is Jorge, and I am stewarding our Communities Building Belonging Network at the Tamarack Institute. Heather Keam, who is our Consulting Director on Asset-Based Community Development at the Tamarack Institute. So, Heather, over to you.
Well, hello, everyone. I see some familiar faces and some new faces, so I'm really excited to be here. And I am joining this journey as part of the pathways for change, and we're calling it Small Changes, Big Difference. And I piloted it last year, and I just want to tell you a little story of Monica, who took part in this journey last year, and she wanted to
3rd September
address
1981.
the sense of urgency in her community, and she wanted to. Her system she was changing was a bottom-up change. And she recognized her patterns that she was seeing in her community and who should be involved. But more importantly, she found a network of people who were doing the same type of work. And she really appreciated having someone coach her along, not just me, but the 6 other folks that were on the call. And so at the end of it, they determined what their systems for change were. They determined the method and how they could approach this change. They learned about asset-based community development, which is my passion, my love. And we're going to follow up with them in a couple of months to see how that went. But we also recognize there were some changes that needed to happen. So your journey, if you choose to do this, is going to be more spread out and more opportunities for the coaching. So I like to say we're going to give you some clay, and then you're going to play, and then we're going to give you some more clay, and we're going to play. And hopefully by the end of it, you have a good sense of what your systems for change is going to be, tools and resources and methods to do it. The other beauty is that we are going to be co-creating these tools and these resources. So we will adapt what we have and explore ways of building tools. So that's how I am going to be participating in this. A bit about me: I love asset-based community development, and I love community work. I do it personally and professionally, and I love belonging. I think belonging is the cornerstone to a lot of our crises, and we just need to figure out how can we build on what is strong in our communities to deal with what is wrong in our communities. So that's all I'm going to say. I have to pop off. I have another meeting at this time, but I just really wanted to meet you all and say that this is a journey that is amazing and a great learning journey, and you will learn so much, especially from Jorge. So over to you, Jorge.
Thank you, Heather. That's very kind of you. Just before you go, just want to bring to your attention that we have great people joining the call today. So you know some of them already, but really appreciate Chantal, Melissa, Elaine, Jennifer, Mary, Melody, Chilla. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. All of you for your introductions. I can see a lot of resonance with what Heather shared, and the perspectives that you're bringing from the organizations and the communities you represent. So it's great to have you with us. And thank you, Heather, for your leadership, asset-based community development, and building belonging over the past couple of years. It's really inspiring. Okay, well, we'll continue with the presentation for today before we go into our conversation period. And Heather, I'm conscious that at some point you'll have to leave, so please feel free to leave when you have to, but we're always happy to have you with us.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so let's get back to our presentation. So Heather, as you can see, she will be stewarding with our colleague Sabrup, the leadership cohort part of our work, which is the Pathways for Change cohort. We're going to be talking about it in a bit. And in my case, I'll be stewarding the Circle of Actions. Heather, Sav, and myself will be working closely over the next couple of months to make sure that this experience is as meaningful and as impactful to all of the participants. The agenda that we have prepared for today is, well, for those of you who are new to Communities Building Belonging, we're going to provide a brief overview on who we are and what we do as a network within the Tamarack Institute, as well as an overview of the Circle of Actions and Pathways for Change. And again, don't worry about taking lots of notes. We're going to be sharing the recording with you, and all of this information is also available on the website. And we also are going to have time for a conversation among all of us. And we have also some closing announcements to share some learning opportunities for you if you're interested. And we also want to, as we have this conversation, recognize the lands where we're joining today. I am joining from Jojage, which is also known as Montreal, and it sits on the lands of the Ganingehaga Nation. It's a place where I've lived over the past 12 years as a newcomer to these lands. And I am really grateful for the history and the stories of communities that I have experienced over the past couple of years. I have also, through conversations with individuals and change makers, I have also come across resources like this one, this podcast called The Secret Life of Canada. Some of you might know it already. If you haven't come across it, I would really encourage you to take a moment to explore the resources. It's quite thought-provoking. It's also fun, and it's also very deep in terms of the conversations that the broadcasters have on the history of these lands, and also in terms of learning more about reconciliation. So you can scan the QR code to learn more about it, and also to explore the episodes. And in terms of our work on building belonging, well, Communities Building Belonging has evolved quite a lot over the past couple of years. We are seeing ourselves as an asset-based movement. Asset-based community development, the area that Heather is stewarding, is really core to the work that we do. And you'll see why as you engage in conversations on belonging at Tamarack, and also as you engage in work like the Circle of Actions. We believe that asset-based community development has the potential to really help us navigate through dynamics that are not helpful, such as polarization, hate, and extremism. We support municipalities, institutions, and change makers to develop strategies and interventions focused on making belonging a policy priority and outcome. So you might have heard that last year we had the Circle of Actions. This year's Circle of Actions is different in the sense that we're deeply committed to pushing for policy change. We want to make policy belonging a policy priority across Canada, recognizing the need to invest in community-led efforts that result in belonging as an outcome. We help collaboratives achieve the following impacts. So we work on increasing a sense of belonging to place and people, increasing social cohesion, fostering equity and inclusion, cultivating community regeneration by stewarding local ecologies and advancing disaster preparedness, increasing a sense of safety, increasing a sense of well-being, and enabling local economies and local food production. The Circle of Actions is connected to our vision for building belonging in Canada. The results and the efforts through the work that we'll be doing through this cohort contribute to informing a call for a Canada-wide strategy for belonging, which we'll discuss in the closing announcements portion of this conversation. But the Circle of Actions itself also changed slightly in terms of its timeline. This year, it's a 10-month learning journey that will begin in March. There will be 5 90-minute sessions to explore key skills to develop plans for belonging, and 5 60-minute coaching sessions. So this is also in response to the feedback that we received last year, and also the value that we see in having communities, having more conversations, more space for prototyping and testing ideas. The Circle of Actions also creates naturally a network of diverse communities across Canada that work at different stages, which is totally fine. in developing their own belonging work, whether it's a municipality that it's advancing a local plan for building a community engagement and cohesion, or a community organization that is rethinking how to work with volunteers to advance to improve their sense of belonging to their community. The skills that we have embedded into the circle of actions are very critical. This is really core to helping communities advance their ideas for building belonging. ABCD, as we have mentioned, is at the heart of this work, but we also have collaboration, community innovation, collective leadership, community engagement, and evaluating impact. So each of these skills have been thoughtfully embedded throughout the learning process and the design of our curriculum. We'll show you the curriculum shortly. And in terms of why join the cohort, well, the cohort provides monthly sessions with guest speakers and also group coaching calls, as I mentioned. As part of the Circle of Actions, you'll have exclusive access to select webinars, events, and publications. You will also have access to resources on developing plans, consultations, and interventions for building belonging through an asset-based community development lens. There are also opportunities for rapid prototyping. So this is, again, why we were intentional in offering coaching sessions this time, because we want participants to make the best use of our time together so that they can test their ideas and validate assumptions with peers. This is of great value. We saw it last year, especially with entrepreneurs who want to test their innovation. We also provide a pathways for change cohort, which is what Heather was talking about, that helps individuals with living experience to deepen their skills of facilitation and collaborative leadership. We also, you'll also have access to updates on the latest news and events on building belonging, not only within Tamarack, but also across Canada, as well as networking opportunities with change makers across sectors and institutions. One of the beautiful insights that we heard from last year is that a couple of participants who joined, they ended up developing great friendships that are resulting in collaboration. And these are individuals that otherwise it would have been really difficult for them to meet. We're thinking about people that live in Halifax versus someone who lives in Vancouver. So through the cohort, this is how they were able to connect with each other and start thinking about ways to work together. We also, as I mentioned, through these exclusive opportunities that we have for cohort participants, we create opportunities for them to connect with Tamarack members, not only within Canada, but also from the States and other parts of the world, that then result in great collaboration opportunities or even like just knowledge sharing conversations. And you also have opportunities to co-author publications and feature your work. This has been extremely helpful for our participants. We have a participant from Montreal who is deeply committed to building belonging in their neighborhood, and we were able to feature their work, and which also resulted in helping advance their own conversations with neighbors, but also with the local government. And there is tailored support for you through our Tamarack staff. So on the Circle of Actions piece, as I said, it will be me, and on the Pathways for Change piece, it will be my colleagues Heather and Sav. So this is what I meant by the curriculum and our session breakdown. So as you can see, the sessions in blue, those are the ones that will be in collaboration with our colleagues at the Learning Center, but also our colleagues that work across different networks for change. We want participants to be exposed to different ways of thinking, not only in the context of belonging, but also belonging and poverty reduction, belonging and climate change, and belonging and youth futures. And through the coaching sessions, this is the time that we'll allocate for you to have those one-to-one conversations with colleagues from the same cohort to test your ideas, validate assumptions, and get the critical feedback that's needed to shift the needle. Who is this opportunity for? So we get asked this question often, and this opportunity is essentially for anyone who is committed to applying an asset-based community development lens, anyone who is committed to participating meaningfully in the cohort's offerings. So we have very limited spots. So we really encourage you, if you're participating, to really allocate the time. It usually takes between 5 to 6 hours per week to do this work. to do it thoughtfully, but it can be sustainable if you work with at least one or two colleagues with whom you can distribute the work. We also encourage you to engage residents with living experience, who are the ones that will participate in Pathways for Change. Another piece that we want to bring into this conversation, again, the difference between last year and this year, is that we're really encouraging us to have conversations on policy. So how is your work contributed to shift something in the current policy landscape? Whether it relates to low-income families or volunteering in Canada or newcomers, language diversity, and so on, you name it. We want to make sure that our work contributes towards making those policy shifts that are needed for building belonging. And about Pathways for Change, so just recapping on what Heather shared earlier, this opportunity is a 7-month learning opportunity that is open to individuals who are part of a team in the Circle of Actions. So how will this work? Participating communities that join the Circle of Actions will be able to nominate 1 to 2 individuals from their teams to participate in Pathways for Change. And through this work, individuals will cultivate relationships with other change makers, learn approaches to systems change, map their systems, and draft a systems change plan, and put their plan into action. And Heather is very action-oriented, so you're in great hands to do this work and to do it effectively. So in terms of the session breakdown, we want to acknowledge that rest is really important. It's something that we have to value collectively as a society for our own well-being and the sustainability of our work. So you can see that we allocated a month for rest, but we also have 6 learning sessions and 3 office hours that are precisely designed for you to get yourself started in understanding your community, understanding the systems around it, and how to navigate through these systems. We also hope that through the office hours, we can cultivate a sense of community, and also for you to really get into asking those questions that are critical for advancing your work. In terms of the selection timeline, we launched the call for applications on January 15. The info session is being held today. The application deadline is February 28th, and the cohort will start on March 18. The Circle of Actions. Pathways for Change will start 1 month later in April. And you can always contact me by email, and you can also scan the QR code to book a call if that's helpful, or we can discuss and find out time to meet by email. And just before we go into a Q&A portion, so if you are new to our work on belonging, we have a webinar tomorrow on social infrastructure and community safety as catalysts for belonging. So this will give you a sense on what we mean by policy changes. We really encourage you to attend. It will be a fun and a really exciting webinar. We have perspectives from the city of Toronto, the city of Vancouver, but also journalists in Toronto who are doing great work on building belonging, as well as the Canadian Center for Safer Communities, who brings a strong community perspective on what we mean when we talk about community safety. So yeah, this conversation is happening tomorrow. So I'll pause for now. I said a lot, and I would really welcome your questions.
I'll ask a question if I may.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Shayla, and I'm broadcasting from the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people, which is known as Renfrew County, Ontario, near the National Capital Region. And I just wanted to ask a question about the practicality of the sessions and exactly what we might experience. What I'm seeing on the schedule reminds me a lot of my post-secondary days where we went to lecture and then had a lab. So is that sort of what we could expect in the practical rundown of the program, that we would go and we would learn together and then we would come back to express how we applied that learning? Is that what I'm gathering?
Thanks for this question, Shayla. Yes and no. So I'm just going to go back to the slides. I'm a visual person, so it always helps me to show a visual, and I hope it helps others as well. Let me just share my screen. we have these sessions in blue. These are, for instance, the session in March. This one is designed for us to do deep thinking on what it takes to raise awareness and will for belonging. What is the latest thinking on doing this work? We're going to have speakers from Tamarack, but also from outside Tamarack who are doing very similar work. At the end of that session, we're going to be sharing with you an assignment for reflection. Since this is session one, it's going to be a very light assignment. And then in April, we're going to reflect on what we heard in March, and we're going to start working on framing our aspiration for belonging. What is the vision that you see in your community? What is needed for you to get there? So we do for every session some reflection on what we learned before, but at the same time, each session is very unique, and especially the sessions in orange are designed for you to have a conversation with, let's say, Mark from Gatineau, who is doing very similar work and hasn't had a chance to ask you a specific question on your project. So those are the kind of conversations that we're hoping we can have during the Space in Orange, recognizing that there is a lot of resources and knowledge that will be shared in the blue sessions, and we won't always have enough time actually to have these one-on-one conversations. So we want to make room for individuals to connect with one another, get to know each other, but also move their work in tangible ways. I believe it was Melissa and then Jennifer.
Hello. I'm a bit confused about the difference between the circle of change and the pathways for change. Can you just clarify if it's that the participants are different, or is there overlap, or yeah, I'm just not clear about what the difference is.
There's thanks for this question. There's absolutely overlap. We're inviting communities to apply for the Circle of Actions, and once we have the list of participating communities can choose to nominate 1 to 2 people from their team to attend Pathways for Change. This is the same structure that we followed last year. So participants come from the Circle of Actions. And the reason why we do that is because the learnings from Pathways for Change will help you do the work through the Circle of Actions. And at the same time, what you learn through the Circle of Actions will help inform your reflections on Pathways for Change.
So a community participates in both, and is it the same person that participates in both, or it's somebody sorry, I'll let you answer that question.
No, that's a great question. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Our preference is that it shouldn't be, because it's a lot of work for one person to be on both things at the same time.
Okay.
And if at the end of the day, your community doesn't have someone that you think can participate in Pathways for Change, that's also fine. It's a great opportunity. So it's unfortunate, but it's fine. We do what we can. Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. I think my question is based on who should the participants be? I'm looking, there's people from the city of, put in big geographical name, I forget who it was, but I'm from a very rural area. The population in southwestern Ontario here in this area is about 9.2 per square kilometer. So when our church closed in 2012, there literally was no other building for 15 kilometers. So this is entirely 100% volunteer. To give you an example of the success, we fundraise usually between $120,000 and $150,000 a year. We have in excess of 700 volunteers, where the population of the little hamlet is 25. So like the nearest health unit is 100 kilometers away. So we've just reached the point where last night at a board meeting, we're looking at another strategic plan, because the focus all along has been try to get the building up to code, and now it is, and it's 100% accessible. And we have a thriving cultural program I feel like I'm giving a lecture, but the point is, I'm not sure if I'm if we have the right people, if we have enough people to be an effective participant here, if that makes sense to you, because we seem to be everything for everybody. And so the strategic plan is trying to help us figure out what now, because we are so successful, but now we have a building, and what's the plan now, rather than just an ad hoc, cultural center. It does have probably almost 70% occupancy on the days it's able to be open. And that's including the weekends. So it gets significant use, but it's a lot of culture and rentals, and we're looking at more humanitarian, for want of a better word. And I should also mention, I swear I'll stop talking, I'm a municipal counselor for a rural area, which is the size of Toronto with 5,600 people. So we also have we don't have any cities, towns, banks, anything. We just have hamlets. And I'm wondering if it might be, and we just started an economic development, which I'm the chair of, because we believe community development is economic development. And I'm wondering if maybe it'd be more appropriate to table it to next year and let the municipality take a crack at it. I'm not sure who your target participant is, and I don't want to waste anybody's time or my own, but I think I've been following Tamarack since probably 2012 or so, and I think you're a spectacular organization. So it caught my eye, and I'd like to know if I'm in the right spot, or, should I just watch and try next year?
Well, thanks for this thoughtful question, Jennifer. And you are definitely in the right spot just by showing how much you care and how thoughtful you are in speaking about your community and the needs and the work that is happening. I would encourage you, just like anyone who's interested, to apply. Yes, we do have, like, let's say 8 to 10 spots, but we can always find opportunities to collaborate within the cohort and beyond the cohort. So there is the reason why we are, and you might have seen this in our website, we're a bit general with the language. We provide some examples, but we don't want to be prescriptive, because there's really not a one size fits all. I'll give you an example. We had a team last year that was a one-person team. This person was a trailblazer. This is the person from Montreal. The amount of work that the person did is quite inspiring. We also had a team that had the makeup of a municipality plus a nonprofit plus individuals with living experience, which is great. And they did amazing work. They were featured in the news. And we had another person who was just one municipal staff that wasn't sure if they were going to continue. In the end, their work went so well that it was also featured in the news, and it changed the perspective of the community on how they see belonging and the role of government in doing this work. So it all requires a level of commitment and care for your community, and also a willingness to look at different perspectives in doing this work. So we definitely welcome all community sizes, all community perspectives, as long as we're willing to center belonging and celebrating the skills and strengths of our community. We do this because we believe that each community has what it takes to ignite change. It often helps us also move from conversations on scarcity to action. Just in the spirit of, as you mentioned, appreciating everyone's time, we want to make sure that the work we do is as tangible and impactful for you as possible, recognizing that you're investing time in doing this work. So did I answer your question?
I think so. I think I should apply. And
Yeah.
we don't make it, then maybe the municipality applies next year.
Exactly. Yeah, or we find another opportunity to collaborate. There are so many options, but please don't hesitate. Shane, am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah, it's Shayna. Thank you so much. Yeah, really excited about this project. Thank you so much for explaining it. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to the policy side of things. Knowing that over the project of 10 months, with the team that I'm working with, we're really talking about how we can plant seeds, right, for community members themselves and things to create their own initiatives. We want to encourage civic engagement. We want to do so many things. So in my specific situation, we do have municipal staff and some city councilors who are at least interested, supportive, might not be part of the working group itself. But yeah, so I'm just curious in general, kind of for everyone on the call, if you could say a bit more about policy, and then maybe specifically if we do already have city councilors that are kind of keeping an eye out for it, how we can bridge that between having it be community, but also getting to the policy aspect.
I love the questions that everyone's bringing to the conversation. This is so helpful. Absolutely, Shayna. In fact, I would encourage the teams that you shouldn't expect to have. I mean, if that happens, that's wonderful, but you shouldn't expect to have your city councilor or city staff on your core team doing this work. There's only so much that people can do. So we all have to help each other. But this is exactly what we mean by having municipal engagement. If you at least have a connection to your local representative who is interested in this work, this is already a huge win. So in terms of the policy piece of this work, I'll provide an example. On Friday, I came across data that says that loneliness is actually expensive for governments. And we can share these resources in the follow-up email. There is a study from Australia, a study from the US, and a study for the Netherlands. In the US case, it showcases that they use social isolation as a language, that it's really expensive for the government in terms of paying for the Medicare. Because as you can imagine, there are lower outcomes in terms of mental health and well-being for an individual who's experiencing isolation. They need more support, therefore it becomes more expensive for the government to take care of it. And then at the same time, these three resources spark some thinking on what if we do early interventions, not only on programs that address mental health, but also on the social infrastructure. We're thinking about parks, schools, libraries, community centers, and how they can create connections so that individuals report better outcomes in terms of their well-being overall. So reporting better outcomes, this is about building belonging. Individuals that have a stronger sense of belonging, we believe through the research that we've been reading, that better outcomes in belonging means that it's also good for the government because it's less expenses in the future in terms of paying for mental health or well-being supports when an individual is already at a critical point. We could have prevented that sooner. So these are the conversations that we want to spark among your projects. This one relates to mental health overall, but there have been conversations through last year's cohort on the housing crisis and individuals that are being unhoused. What can we do locally to create a strong sense of connection and also raise awareness about among neighbors that individuals that are being unhoused are also human beings and they have rights and they deserve to be treated with dignity. What needs to change at the city level so that we can have a conversation and create policies that support the well-being of these individuals as well? In the case of newcomers, what are some conversations that we need to have to recognize that public markets are also spaces for gathering for low-income families and newcomers to Canada who usually have very limited social capital? So we are hoping to map how policy shows up through your work and then documenting at the end of the year through a publication that shares some takeaways on what has happened since then. We did a very humble exercise in December through a publication on takeaways from the Circle of Actions, and that's where we start naming some of those policy themes that came up.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. And I see two hands. I think that we have Peel newcomer strategy first.
So I don't know, like if Jamie wants to go first, if she's answering some questions on the behalf of Tamarack.
Jamie,
Jorge, I was gonna flag a couple of questions that came up in the chat a while ago.
okay.
One is from Chantal, who is asking, if you are a successful applicant, are your fees covered through CEP membership, Communities Ending Poverty membership?
Yes. Tamarack members, CP, CCT, CBB. Sorry, we're using the Tamarack jargon now. Community sending poverty, building youth futures, building belonging, climate transitions. Your work is covered. Yeah.
Okay. I
Well,
got
not your work, your participation. Sorry, that's what I meant.
all right. I've got two other small ones, and then we'll hand the mic back to Peel. So Vanessa was asking how many people are accepted into and participate in the program.
That's a great question. It really depends on the nature of your work. To me, my suggestion is always about focus. Who are the people that are going to get the work done? Because we have had teams that had, let's say, 15 people joining, which is fine. They can join the sessions and listen, but at the end of the day, who is going to bring the work forward? And if you can at least identify 2 to 3 people who are really going to help with this, that's great. Again, you can also do a one-person team, and that's fine if the application really aligns with the purpose of this cohort. But to me, ideally, the most engaging and collaborative teams have usually one person that is always present, 2 to 3 people that are always helping with the work, and then connecting with their city councilor, city staff, local nonprofit, and so on. But there's nothing wrong if you want to have like 5 to 10 people from your team also benefiting from these conversations and at least listening.
And Jorge, I just shared in the chat the blog post from last year that highlighted the various members of the cohort last year, just in case they were asking like how many different teams there are like across the entire program. And last question before we give it back to Peel was from Chantal. Is there an expectation of how big your action plan must be?
The expectation is up to you. So we're going to give you the tools to develop what we call a plan on a page. And I'm saying this with humility. This is the first step for you to have a plan in your community. It's designed to be a visually accessible plan for you to talk to anyone, whether it's a resident or someone at the city or a local nonprofit or a university. Anyone can get it in one page, what your vision is and what you're hoping to achieve. If after that, we really invite you to continue on our relationship so that we can continue developing your idea. And this is what we're doing with some of the communities from last year. I'm thinking about the new Westminster community that they continue to be involved in this work. And yeah, it's really up to you how big you want to take it. But we'll always be here to support you. We just want to make sure that at least at the end of the cohort, you end up with a set of tools and foundations for you to continue doing your work. And if you have a plan already, that's great. The cohort is an opportunity for you to fine tune and update a couple of things.
Thanks, Jorge. Peel, can I hand it back to you?
Yeah, thanks. Really excited about all the initiatives that Tamarack had. So I was also participating in one of the collective impact groups that was offered through my organization. So yeah, always looking forward for whatever Tamarack offers. So one question regarding this, in fact, too, for this cohort. So how is the cohort formed? Is the combination of rural and urban communities, or how is that made? Because the needs from a rural perspective would be quite different. And the region that I come from, it's immigrant dense. And we are dealing with so many different other dynamics that we face in the community, be it the housing crisis that is Canada-wide, but the negative immigration sentiments that are rising right now. So just to handle that. So that is my first question. And the second one is like, if at all we may get to the cohort, is there, and there's a turnover, the person who represents our cohort leaves goes on to a different role. Is there an opportunity to get that position, or not the position, that spot filled by a different person from the working group?
Sure, yeah, am I pronouncing your name right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Uh, sure, yeah, thanks for these questions. Well, I'll start with the one on fulfilling the position. Absolutely. This is why we sometimes we overshare in terms of the amount of detail on the information, how many hours there is expected for you to work on this, because we don't encourage turnover. So this is a very unique opportunity that we provide to communities. And this is why, Jennifer, to your questions, to me, commitment, and to us actually at Tamarack, commitment is the number one priority. Commitment and alignment in terms of vision and values. Last year, except for like one or two instances, there wasn't really turnover. But those 1-2 instances meant that someone that really wanted to be here couldn't make it, which is very sad. So we really encourage anyone who wants to participate to be very serious about it, be very intentional, because this is an opportunity that someone else might not have. So then to your point on rural and urban communities, that shouldn't be a concern. The learning arc of this cohort is designed for anyone, whether it's a small, mid-size, or big city, to participate. We focus on our framework, asset-based community development, and the goal, which is building belonging, making belonging a policy priority, making it clear as a way to bring us together. And this learning arc that I shared is also informed by the work of my colleagues who have had several years of experience working with different municipalities. So we want to find what are the common challenges across municipalities, regardless on the city size, to really develop learning opportunities that can help anyone. And I also appreciate the comments that you raised on the current state of the world, especially for newcomers and for equity denied groups. Equity is core to this work. And I have to say it because Tamarack is very committed to equity and reconciliation. We have a director who's doing this work, and these are the type of conversations that we want to have in a way that, even though we might disagree on some perspectives, we're able to meet in the middle and have constructive conversations to bring our work to the next level.
Thanks. Thanks, Joe.
Jamie, I think Vanessa was next, right?
Yeah, Vanessa, and then I'll bring another one from the chat.
Sounds good.
So I'm just wondering, as in terms of the participants within our collective, like how important is it that they are involved in this process rather than us bringing what we are learning through this process to them? Because I think, so for our piece, so I represent a municipality. In our strategic plan, we have prioritizing community safety and well-being. Our local police service has a community safety advisory council, which has operated for a few years, but not, it definitely doesn't have the community development collective impact frame. It's, having a presentation at the group and then surprised that there's not anybody bringing things to the table rather than supporting an environment where there's conversation. And so we've kind of signed on, we're signing an MOU now where it's a collaborative effort. And then that committee, because we have representatives per ward and we have, diverse participation and all of that, that Safety Advisory Council will also be informing the development of our neighborhood strategy on the municipal level. But I know the police service is not going to spend the time on this back end piece. They will gladly participate what I bring forward.
Yeah.
And I don't know that any of the participants are going to want to give more than the meetings they attend and what I bring, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, and thank you so much, Vanessa, for sharing your thoughts. It's from what I hear, I can see that you have commitment to doing this work with communities, which is so appreciated, and it requires extra work, right? So let's just name that. And I wouldn't worry too much if, for instance, the safety people in your community don't have the time or can't join, or anyone from this council is unable to make it. This is why it's important to identify, as I mentioned, at least one or two people who can help you, whether they're from your own team or from some of your partner organizations or departments. And those other people, they can be kept informed and they can choose to join the sessions as they see fit. So once communities are accepted and they receive the update that they are part of the cohort, we leave it up to you to just choose the list of participants. And then as I mentioned earlier, these people can choose to join and listen as they see fit. But at least we know that in this case, in your team, it would be you and this person, or maybe just you, as the one who is deep into the learning and testing and then sharing back with whoever is critical for bringing your plan forward.
Thank you.
Sure. And Jamie.
Yeah, so I saw Lori was asking, how
Yeah.
formulated does the core idea for the project have to be for an applicant? Or is that core idea for the project co-produced with the community during the time of the journey?
How formulated, right?
Yes.
I am loving the wisdom here in the questions that you're all asking. It again, it really depends on your needs. If the project, there's already something underway, that's absolutely fine. You want to validate your assumptions. You want to bring into the next level, which could be engaging residents in your local community. You can do that. If you are just getting started, but you are so committed to it and you have identified 1 to 2 people who can help you, that's also fine. And if you are just one person and haven't decided who are going to be the people in your team to help you, that's also okay, as long as you have a clarity on the vision and what you're hoping to achieve at the end of this journey. That is the main thing when it comes to this plan piece. And those of you who are more advanced in your plans, you will find a lot of value through the plan on a page exercise that we'll be doing, as well as those of you who are just getting started. Some people, they might be more advanced in their work, and then they actually find through the conversations with other colleagues that there are things that need to be changed. And some people who feel that they are just getting started, they realize eventually that they actually have a couple of things in place already. So again, it depends on the vision and the aspiration that you have for the work that you're hoping to lead, but it's still going to be very meaningful to you, this experience. Jamie, do we have other questions from the chat that we haven't?
I'm not seeing any other ones.
And Heather is here.
Yeah, my meeting ended early. I wanted to pop in.
Heather, you missed the questions. These are great questions. We've spoken about the makeup of the teams, the stage of plan development, how pathways for change and circle of actions connect, rural versus urban. And Heather, I know you're very passionate about rural engagement as well, right?
Yes, having born and raised and live in rural communities, that is another passion of mine. So, how do we do this in rural communities? It's slightly different, but yet a lot of same. It's a lot of same. It's more the how that is different, because our neighbors are not necessarily within walking distance. And how we see neighbors.
Thanks for sharing. Any other questions or comments? I think we're good for now, but if you have other questions that come in between now and February 28th, please reach out to us. I'm conscious I haven't responded to some emails yet. I'll do a better job at responding to emails. But we are keen to learn more about your work, and I hope that you can consider applying for this learning and action opportunity. Before we go, I just want to share with you some final announcements. So I'll just go quickly through these slides to get to the announcements portion. So we spoke about this webinar happening tomorrow. If you're new to our work, it can really provide some insights, especially on what we mean by belonging and policy in relation to these two topics, social infrastructure and community safety. We also, as I mentioned, we have the strategy for belonging, and this work is critical to advance the movement for a Canada-wide strategy for belonging. We have 1,100 local champions who are supporting this work already. And Heather and I, we always say that we want to get to 1 million, right, Heather?
1 million. Yes, we can do it.
We can do it. I was telling Heather 1,000, I'm good with 1,000. She's like, no, let's go for 1 million. So this year we're going to be developing tailored offerings for cohort participants, but also for anyone who's committed to building belonging to help us shape this strategy, what it can look like and who needs to be involved. And also what it can look like in terms of making belonging a policy priority. We're going to be sharing more information on our different learning offerings through our social media platforms, as well as our newsletter and our website. But for now, that's it on my end. Heather, anything else that you'd like to add?
That there's also a webinar called Leading with Connection, Discovering the Superpower. I'm all about superpowers. Superpower that builds thriving groups. And that webinar is on March 26th. And this gentleman who's doing it, Rajiv, he does mapping out. And so this is kind of related to the systems, but it's your system and connecting. And I remember I didn't put myself on my map. I helped and did everything for everybody else. And that was the biggest thing. And that was about 10 years ago that we did this together. And so, yeah, so there's another webinar that you might be interested in.
Thank you, Heather. And thank you so much, everyone. Please reach out if you have questions. We're here for you.